Welcome to the Ungrowth Show. In today's episode, we're going to talk about Amazon's botched rollout of an AI recruitment tool, the lessons they learned, and how you can apply it to your business. All right, so during 2010s, to the mid-2010s, the tech industry was increasingly adopting AI. Have you heard about that?
AI, yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they were trying to streamline various processes, including recruitment. And AI was seen as a solution to reduce human bias and increase efficiency in hiring. However,
False. Yeah.
the implementation of AI in recruitment was still in its nascent stages. And many companies, including Amazon, faced unforeseen challenges. What were those challenges, you might ask? In 2014, Amazon began developing a recruitment tool designed to review job applicant resumes and the hiring process. The goal was to create a system that could efficiently identify the most qualified candidates by giving them a score ranging from 1 to 5 stars. Let the robot do the work. Because recruiting's no fun, right?
I get it.
It's like the worst.
Yeah.
Okay. So by 2015, the company realized that their AI system was not rating candidates in a gender-neutral way.
No,
I don't know why
shocked
you're
look.
laughing.
Like, what?
This
I
is-
can't believe that didn't go well.
Right. I don't know why you thought that was funny, but
Yeah.
you did.
'Cause
You
it's-
smiled. It's not a laughing
I
matter.
can't believe that they would even think about that.
So this was because the AI was trained on resumes submitted to Amazon over a 10-year period.
Makes
That
sense. Perfect.
Where are you
sense.
going to feed it
You
data?
got to train it.
You got to train it. You feed it
Yeah.
the resumes you got in over a 10-year period.
Feed it full of a bunch of garbage and
Now-
get garbage.
In
Who would
hindsight,
have thought?
In hindsight, who do you think in the 10 years prior to, so from 2005 to 2015, who do you think was submitting tech resumes to Amazon? If you had to pick like a segment of society.
White males. Is that a good part? Yeah.
I don't.
Did I get it?
You got part, well, I can't assume, but they came mostly from men.
Okay.
So reflecting the male dominance in the tech industry.
Right.
Okay, well that kind of makes sense too. So the AI system effectively taught itself that male candidates were preferable. So it pulled a Skynet on us and said, became self-aware. It penalized resumes that included the word women and downgraded graduates from all women's colleges. That seems excessive.
Yeah. Yep. Because it's just with no emotion. It's looking at data.
And
That's what happened.
And it sounded like it had an axe to grind. It went out and
It
looked
really did.
at like
Yeah.
the all women colleges.
Yeah, that's your view.
That's a-
yeah. It was the AI had an axe to grind. Yeah.
So although Amazon edited the programs to make them neutral to these particular terms, it was clear that the AI could still devise other discriminatory ways of sorting candidates. So just saying, no, you can't do that. It was going to find a workaround to be discriminatory.
Yeah. First of all, I actually completely get why they wanted to build a tool like this, because I've looked at thousands of resumes in my career, and when you put a job posting out and you say, okay, I really need this role, I need someone to fill this role, and you put it out there on the World Wide Web, you're going to get so many resumes, and if you're working with recruiting firms, you're going to get a whole lot more, and you're hoping that somebody out there is going to screen those for you. And maybe they do, but in many cases you get a stack of resumes that you really should spend a lot of time looking through each one, giving it careful consideration. But you know as well as I do, you're going to get the guy that's been working at a pizza delivery place and he worked at a warehouse and now he wants to be my senior IT manager, and in the hope that he'd get an interview. And you got to screen those out, of course, right? And you take that times 1,000, it's a lot of effort to go through those. I get why you would want to automate that, first of all.
Now, in my experience, Mike, recruitment companies have always done that work for us and not completely sent every resume that came into their inbox in the hopes that they would get 20% over the highest paid.
Some are better than others, so you got to build those relationships. But yeah, you get some good ones, some good vendors, and they do. They get to know your business, and they screen those ahead of time so that you still have to do your work, but they're doing this screening on their end before they get them. Others, they're just going to shoot you everything they have. And every one of your competitors will get those same resumes, so it's, you want to cut ties with those vendors pretty quick.
Yeah. But, I mean, in general, we understand recruitment, people experience, that's tough. That's tough work, tough line of business.
Yeah, it takes, and
a lot of time.
Yeah, and so for this, I think the biggest thing to take out of this is that they were using an AI tool exclusively to look at data and sort and prioritize them in a way that would highlight, say, the top 5 or 10. And again, I get that, but they were doing that in a vacuum. They just removed all human element to that, and that is not the way, not the responsible way to use AI.
Yeah.
You can't just outsource something like that to an AI tool and expect good results.
Well, it makes sense now.
It does. Well, I think, okay. Yeah.
So,
now looking, I think it should have made sense.
So despite the initial hopes of this in 2015, this time-saving miracle of wonders of AI, they decided to scrap and abandon this fool's journey by 2018. The AI recruitment tool was found to be biased and unreliable. And Amazon's recruiters never relied solely on the rankings generated by the tool. So they had this. They spent a lot of effort. I don't know how much money they spent here, but they spent a lot of effort into it, and they never fully trusted it. So it sounded just like they created more work for themselves to say, oh, here's something, let me now manually discount that. So it sounded like they created more work for themselves.
Oh, yeah. Anytime you choose Ungrowth, you are absolutely creating more work for yourself, and it's going to cost you more money. So it's short-sighted, I think, when you actively choose Ungrowth for the short-term gain, you're going to just end up feeling a lot of pain pretty quickly and have to redo it all.
Now, hopefully we'll circle back and get into that, because you're saying they actively chose Ungrowth. I believe probably back in 2014, 15, they thought, hey, full steam ahead, new technology, we're Amazon, we're blazing a trail, if not us, who?
Okay. Here's why I think that is because people who have hired in their career, I would imagine, because if they didn't have HR folks in the mix on this, if it were just a bunch of engineers, developers, I mean, maybe that's how they got here, but I can't imagine any seasoned HR professionals saying, the best idea is to take all of our professional HR recruiters and hiring people out of the algorithm. Let's just outsource it completely to a machine. I can't imagine that is what happened. But if that is what happened, I think then they actively chose Ungrowth. I mean, I can't imagine that you would do that. I mean, we're talking about people, and so, and here's the second part. This actually went live. Like this actually happened to people. They were being discriminated against. So why wouldn't they have learned maybe these lessons in testing? Like you got to go through testing, right? So you're going to build an AI tool to help you with these things, pump it full of 100 resumes or so, and then look at the outcomes. I think you would be able to see how these things are being ranked and organized. But what they did, I think, is they built it, they went live with it, then they saw a trend, and then people were complaining, then they looked into it, and then they tried to fix it, which I do like that. I do like that they were looking at it, they were listening, and they tried to fix it, because then they're flipping it to, okay, we're going to fight some ungrowth here. This can't stay. We're going to fix it and focus on it. But initially, they built it and just went live and just said, okay, let's just completely outsource this to an AI tool and hope for the best. That's not good business.
So this highlighted the limitations and ethical concerns associated with AI in recruitment, underscoring the need for human oversight and careful management of AI systems. So this is one area of the business that people, they look at and they say, oh, that's a candidate for, that's a candidate for efficiency. If AI is this miracle, right? Everybody agrees that is a pain point. We should be able to do something about that. Let's use this technology for our benefit.
Sure.
Just implement it a little ham-handed, right?
Yeah,
So
that's it. I mean, it's really about, there's a balance. I mean, with Microsoft's program, at least, with their AI, they call it Copilot. And the reason they called it Copilot is because you're the pilot. You have to have, even with the most automated of things, or things that you want to use for like resumes, because actually we're building something similar for our own use, because you do get a ton of resumes. You want a tool to help you screen and organize these in a certain way. But we wouldn't take that and just run with what the AI said. You have to have the human element still involved. You have to have a professional who can look at that and check the AI results. And if there's anything that's really like this, we're certainly biased, then you got to get back into the AI programming and do something with it. But also, no one tool, even like assessments and all that, should be the one thing you use to hire or fire somebody. It's a tool. This is one tool we use to organize things. This is the tool we use to screen. This is a tool we use to do a pre-assessment of skills. Then we have an in-person interview, which we score those, based on the role, on how they are with how the person interviews as a cultural fit. There's so many things that go into hiring someone. So just building an AI tool that's going to screen resumes and populate the top 5, just talk to those 5 and blindly pick one, I think is an irresponsible way to go about hiring.
Well, certainly the results would show that. But let's back up a little bit, because I don't know back in this time frame what Amazon's other AI initiatives were. Like, I don't know if this was the first one out of the gate, if it was.
It was pretty early on, though, 2010.
Yeah.
Not a lot of folks doing AI back in 2010.
Yeah, so, had they tried other ones that were successful? I don't know exactly. But where we are today, right? AI is everything that we all hear about, and we're seeing the first inklings of what it can do, if you believe that the government is turning it on for us.
Yeah.
But we're seeing a little bit of that now, and so you're having organizations, businesses out there saying, I need to get me some AI. And where do I get me some AI? And how do we do it? And so there's maybe this rush to latch onto this new technology without a good understanding of what they're trying to accomplish with it.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to know and they understand that, hey, this is a thing and we can't ignore it, what's some of the first things they should do to step back and say, what are we trying to do? So how do they analyze how they can use AI in their business?
Well, the first step is doing exactly that. Step back and look at AI and take an honest look of what AI tools are out there, because they are growing so fast. The technology is just flying at a pace that no one's ever really seen before. For when ChatGPT, which is what everyone thinks of when we say AI, when it came out, and it was really just into 2023. I mean, we haven't even been in a full year yet of what it can do. And when it came out, before that, TikTok took 7 months to get to 1 million users. And people were like, oh gosh, TikTok got 1 million users in 7 months. And ChatGPT did it in 2. Because it's easy to use, it's free, and it's accessible. But people look at ChatGPT and think that's AI. And really, that's only one very small part of what AI can do. So as an organization, you still start with what your core is. What is our business? What is our business model? Who are our competitors? What are we trying to do? But what are our outcomes? What are we looking to? What are our goals for the year? And even 3 and 5 years. And then you look at AI to see what can it possibly do to help us become more efficient, more productive. And if there is a true case for it, then do that. And we counsel people all the time, even though we're a Microsoft partner, we're in the Azure AI Studio, building custom Copilots and all that we caution companies against deploying AI right now. It doesn't make sense. It's an expense, it's a distraction, it's not going to help you, but you need to be aware of it. So step 1 is don't bury your head in the sand. take an honest look at it and make a conscious choice as a team to either do some AI or don't do it. But don't just ignore it and be oblivious to what's going on around you, because that is absolutely a step toward ungrowth.
Well, I mean, AI comes in a lot of different forms, right? I mean, so it's not like we have to stand back and say, I've got to have a horde of developers banging out code that no human can understand, right? I mean, we're Microsoft partners. Microsoft has spent their trillions of dollars investing, using the data that we have supplied it in Azure. We've filled their models out, and they know kind of where they think that they can provide the most efficiency with an easily accessible tool right now. So that would be in all of these Copilots. So to think that you have to build something from the ground up is in order to take advantage of AI, it's kind of a fallacy, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can. The thing with companies right now that we'll counsel them on with AI and exactly this AI tool, the story with Amazon, is it's when you build something, it's going to take the human element out. You're no longer using human emotion or judgment in these business decisions. That's really the takeaway for me on this one. But if you think that you're not using AI as an organization, you probably are, because there's this rise in what we call citizen developers, and they're popping up all over every organization. And a citizen developer is that person on that team. They're not trying to do any ill will, but they have found that they can be more efficient, they can get things more done more completely and more quickly if they go out to ChatGPT as an example. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a great tool, but it's still in the hands of the person that's using it. But there are a lot of AI tools that are kind of running rampant in a lot of organizations right now that the leadership team has no idea that they're even being used, because there are no AI policies in place. There are no rules in the handbook that say you can't do it. All those things are probably coming, but you do not have to invest in custom AI in a big IT project to start seeing the benefit of AI, but you definitely should start looking at your organization to figure out what AI tools are being used now by our people to solve problems, and kind of get your head around it, because it can really do some damage.
Well, it sounds almost as if you were saying maybe among the first steps that you take as you're looking at is making sure you have some governance in place.
You have to. Yeah, just even something simple. Things start popping up now, online that you can find for free. We counsel a lot of folks just on even like a one-pager governance that you should at least provide your employees. Just talking about, it's similar to when the BYOD policy came out years back, when it was bring your own device, because if you worked at a company, they would provide you what you needed. Well, then here comes the cell phone, and when iPhone hit it big, and now Google's in the market, people were bringing their own device, and they wanted to work on their phone. And so how as a company are you going to get your arms around that and secure it, make sure your data is safe and all that? So they had to go through this whole bring your own device policy, and we would call that shadow IT. So shadow IT would pop up. People were using their own devices and computers and doing what they wanted to do to get their work done, but IT wasn't involved. Well, now there's shadow AI. So you've got to have some addendum to that or addition to that to talk about how are we going to at least provide some level of governance around the AI tools that our employees are probably using.
Well, so in the instance of the Amazon, the data they were feeding it were the 10 years of resumes.
Yeah.
But like with the ChatGPT or Bing, any of these kind of things. So you can ask it to code, give me a code snippet or something of that nature, and it will spit out a code snippet for you. So if you're a developer, you can, but I guess theoretically, that code snippet is just what somebody else fed the model.
It was trained somewhere.
It was trained somehow. So you don't really know with confidence that that code snippet is not nefarious or does what you want it to do, because there's no governance.
Hopefully it's going to go through like some testing and stuff, but it was worse than that. Is it's just like when the internet all came out as well, or cloud computing was coming out. It's all that technology is in the hand of the person wielding it, right? And you can use it for good or evil. So a lot of folks, like when I talk to presentation around AI, I think, there's a certain group that says AI is going to cure all of our illnesses and it's the savior, it's got all the answers to everything, it's going to save the world. And another camp is AI is going to kill us all in 5 years. So somewhere in between is probably the truth, right? So it's not this, it's somewhere in between. So as you move forward and you're using ChatGPT, maybe that's an innocent one where, hey, can you write me a little code, a little snippet to do this? And it does, great. But there's an example that we share all the time of this technician who was working on a very high-end industrial machinery and was trying to fix it on the fly, out there, cell phone in hand, and couldn't figure it out, couldn't figure out this customer's issue. So took the schematics, which were very proprietary to the company, and loaded them into ChatGPT and said, hey, ChatGPT, here's the schematic, this is the issue. Can you help me? And through a series of prompts, it actually ended up helping. And it gave him new ideas and new thoughts, and he was able to fix that machine. Harmless, right? So he comes back with that story to the senior leadership team, which his boss was like, man, that's amazing, and let's share that at the next board meeting, and they did, to really pat him on the back. But the lawyer in the room said, can you get our proprietary data back out of ChatGPT? No, that's the answer, no. It's up there, you trained it, it lives there forever, and you can't get that back. So what if you have all your company secrets and your schematics and all your proprietary data, and without any governance, you've got your employees trying to solve problems. Person didn't do anything maliciously. I need to solve this problem. You're loading stuff into AI models that you don't know where that data is going. But now all their competitors could just go into ChatGPT and say, hey, can you explain the secret sauce of my competitor? Sure, here's the recipe. That's the danger.
So and I know you're not saying it, but back in the
I'll say it.
In the early days of the internet, the answer wasn't just nobody get on the internet because we can get. Remember the "I love you" virus?
Oh yeah, all those.
Nobody opens up email attachments, or nobody gets on the internet because the internet is filled with viruses. Well, that would have been Ungrowth defined, right? So it's very much the same thing here. The answer is not to not use AI or incorporate it, but you have to do it smart, wisely.
You have to be smart. You gotta have planning and thought through it. You can't just build an AI tool and feed it full of a limited amount of data and then use that data to make corporate decisions in any way, not just HR, not just hiring, but anything. You can't just pump it full of because here's what AI will do, and ChatGPT is famous for this as well, is it wants to answer your question. And it will answer your question even if it has to make something up that sounds incredibly believable. And there's an example of a salesperson that said, I hate writing these summaries at the beginning of our statement of work. I have to do a corporate summary about who they are, what they do. I'll just ask ChatGPT. So spit it out, and it was one of the best. He's like, I could have never written this. Is great. Cut, paste. Sent it. It actually got the sale. But they said, oh, by the way, we went ahead and signed it because we like you guys and we want to use you guys as a vendor. But if you could, we don't know who that is, but that's not us. So they wrote a whole corporate summary, but it sounded good. You'll also have like ChatGPT that will actually give books like references. Here's your answer, and I'm basing that on this author, this book title, listed on Amazon, and list references, and come to find out made them all up. There are no books called that, and those authors don't even exist. So
if you
sounds good.
Even pay attention with the Trump trials, I don't want to get into that too much, other than I think Michael Cohen, I think his lawyer submitted a brief to the court that was citing cases that did not exist.
Oh, really?
They turned in court documents that cited cases that.
See, I don't know about that exact example, but I'm saying that's the danger. Is even when a human's involved, if you just take what the AI said and you run with it and you're not checking it, and people say, well, that's the goal of AI. It's supposed to save me time, not. Well, then you're kind of using it wrong, because what you're really doing, you're putting AI in the front seat, you're putting them in the pilot seat, and you're not even the co-pilot. You're just you're making them the pilot of the plane, letting it take off and hope it gets to where it's supposed to go. And you can't do that with AI. And people think, well, I just need that productivity though. Well, there's still process automation, like Power Automate with Microsoft. You can automate lots of process, still save you a ton of time that you don't even need AI for. So it's different. But these cases, the one you just stated as well, is it's happening all over. Corporations right now have people using AI tools, making decisions or creating work that they haven't really fact-checked.
And this is the time before it gets out of hand that you really need to be putting those policies in place. I mean, if you just think about from when we all learned about ChatGPT to even today, so now you can create images. They still have issues with the fingers, but that's going to get worked out. I think it's the funniest thing in the world. I've been writing songs as an AI. Now you can write songs. Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah,
they're pretty good.
They sound pretty good. Too,
and so just to go, and I'm of the believer, hey, there's a lot more stuff in the pipeline that we will be shocked to understand that it does. We're just seeing the surface of what it can do on the fun things. Look at these fun things you can do. So if you don't get in the front end of it now, you're going to be in a world of hurt when some of these larger initiatives come out. So I think we agree that would be that kind of the first step. Putting that governance in place.
There is that when we're talking about citizen developers, because now you have somebody that's actively asking an AI tool for something, then they're taking a run with it. But the other part is kind of more what Amazon did here, where AI has been around a lot longer than people think. We're just now using it for the reasons we said, but this AI tool, like if you've ever gone to Google and you start typing something in and it starts listing recommendations, it's been doing that for years. That's AI. And AI is it's going to get greater and greater and greater. It's going to get better as it goes very quickly, and it's going to become more invisible. Like there are going to be things that in this world that are all running AI that people don't realize that they're interacting AI all over the place. Right now, scammers are using it in a way to mimic their loved ones' voices and making phone calls. So it sounds like them, so it's blurring the lines and like I said, people in the hands of someone good or evil, just like internet or any other technology or any other tool, you can use it to build or destroy, right? So, we've got to come up with ways to provide governance and oversight, and you can't take the human element out of it when it comes to your business, and you can't put your head in the sand and just go, I don't know what to do about it. There's a lot you can do about it. If you do that, that's where we say you're choosing ungrowth.
So what's the role of human oversight? I mean, we can always put it policy, but what kind of, once you have a platform or a model or some tool that you have built that you're using, how can we put in effective oversight with humans? What's our role in that?
Well, I think that primarily you've got to have something in place that tells the employee. When I think of an employee handbook, for instance, that's the rules of the game. So if you're playing any sport, you have to have a book of rules that someone provides some oversight to, because then now we all know how to score. We know what a penalty is, and we know when we're out of bounds. And if you don't have those, then it's just chaos, but a bunch of millionaires running around on a field, right? And you got to have rules in the game. And so business is much like that you have to understand what's your role? What are you here to do? What do we expect from you? How are you paid? How do you grow your career? Along with how do I behave as an employee in my culture here at this workplace? And when there's no mention of AI, then you really can't find your employees at fault for using AI, just like any tool, to perform better. So you got to at least provide some level of guidance. So I think most companies are still in that bucket. They still haven't done anything. And I think what they need to do is at least maybe identify the tools that they believe are safe. If you want your company to use the Copilots for Microsoft that are embedded in the tools, then we can help you get those up and going, but you should provide some training and guidance around the proper use of it. Because even Copilot is based on giving you insights and input and some recommendations based on the data it has. So if you're going to use that, you should have some governance document that just says, you can do that, but you have to be the one responsible for the oversight. and you have to make sure that the facts that you're getting ready to use are accurate. So don't just take what a Copilot says, stick it in an email and send it, because you could damage the company or maybe a customer relationship. So, but right now, there is no governance. There's no, so our employees are doing that all over the place because they haven't been told that they can't.
Well, you also look to, in the instance of like a Copilot, you need to also look at maybe things that you wouldn't normally think of, like a document security. You need to have somebody to come and look at that, because there is the potential that in order to help you, the Copilot will go out and find documents to present to you that you should not have access to, because whoever implemented said, oh yeah, look at this directory, look at our entire SharePoint, and then pull back, well,
let's pull in the company payroll to help you make your decision, right? So that's where, like, especially large organizations, if we don't have a pretty good grip on their security, that it just becomes an issue with security, and you're giving people access, because people move within an organization, they move teams. So when they first joined, maybe they had access to this SharePoint site and this file folder, and they went to that team. So they didn't remove these rights, they just added more. And if you're with a company for a while, you end up getting access to things that maybe you shouldn't have access. And maybe sometimes they've never accessed them. They've never tried to go into that folder because they're a human, and even if they knew they could get there, they dare not open it because they're being responsible, right? AI, if it's not programmed correctly, especially the ones that we talk about, more of a private AI, where it's only going to consume the corporate data, it will try to help you solve a problem and find an answer to what you asked it. So it will go everywhere that you've been granted access, whether you would go there or not, and it's going to provide all that data back to you. So your data has to be sound, and your security policies got to be tight, or you're opening yourself up.
So it sounds like, this is going to be a big magnifying glass for rickety architecture in the beginning, right? So it's just going to shine a light, it's going to show all the flaws and defects that you had, maybe that you've grown up with from the get-go. So,
but even if it does, you got to have something in place that you see it, and then you do something about it. Because there are companies who it is going to put that magnifying glass on it, and they're going to then know, I got to do something about that, and then they don't. And that's where Ungrowth comes in, that you're choosing to do something, or choosing not to do something you should do in order to continue to grow your company, and you're ignoring it.
Yeah, so like in the instance, a case of, let's just say there's some random office application that worked well for you 10 years ago, but now not a lot of people use it, or when they do, it's a frustrating experience. It kind of works for some people, other people don't. But this is just like that technology, which is costing you money and inefficiency. All of your platforms, your suite of applications, need to be audited at some point to make sure that they're working for you. Are they still relevant? You might still be paying licensing fees and things for that, for things you're not using anymore. So in that sense, AI is just another tool suite. You need to have been auditing all this stuff all along. If you haven't, you volunteered for Ungrowth, you signed up for it, but it hasn't necessarily maybe bitten you to the extent that you noticed it yet.
Right.
Now is the opportunity for you to go and say, you know what, I'm not going to let that harm us on a larger scale. We're going to get our entire house in order.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's where we get into when you do a strategic growth plan for organizations, one thing we look at is the tech stack. What is your tech stack? What technology investments have you made? What is it? Why do you have it? What's the purpose? Who uses it? Those things. Are they silos? They're not integrated. All the data is. And when we do those exercises, it's interesting. Almost every time we're saving folks money because they're investing in 3 or 4 different tools that do the same thing. Because that group wanted that one, and this group, and then this one came from somewhere. But now with AI on top of that, it's interesting when you start looking at data and how data is fed into the system. You start seeing that there are data funnels that are just coming in because so-and-so connected it to the outside world, and now you've got some AI bot pulling in data from sources that you may or may not agree with as a company, but now it's getting mixed into the collective, and it's influencing the model which is going to influence the outputs that people receive. So you gotta look at that stuff, and it's a continuous sort of digital evolution instead of, well, we did that last year. Like, you've got to have a team looking at that all the time because it gets out of hand quick.
So at TrellisPoint, we look at growth and ungrowth and strategic growth through the lens of your people, your processes, and your data.
Yep.
Right? And so when we boil, and we always are looking at things through that lens, so it helps us to really a lot of times a lot of the same core problems. If there are issues in there, AI, again, going to magnify them or alleviate pain. So it can work both ways. So if we stand back and we look, okay, from a people standpoint, there are moral, there are ethical implications of implementing an AI, much like in the Amazon example where it was being discriminatory in practice, probably 100% unintentional.
Sure.
But nonetheless, it impacted operations, maybe would have impacted a person or people, groups of people, had there not been human oversight involved. So what are maybe some of the moral, ethical ramifications that we need to put in place, or safeguards we need to put in place for our people, which we've always said, or everybody says, most valuable resource?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that, Microsoft has this whole movement around responsible AI, which I love, and a lot of them are really big players are starting to do that, which is, it's really enforcing, again, that AI is a tool, and it's not meant to replace human beings in business in the way that we're talking about it with processes and such. It's meant to give new ideas and to provide to get you a little further faster than what we could before. But anything that any guidance that we could give would be to not remove the human element out of your day-to-day operations. If you're going to use AI tools, they are phenomenal. I mean, there's a lot of good and a lot of efficiencies that can be gained, but you can't just turn on, say, Copilot in Microsoft 365, which a lot of companies do. They buy it, and now there's a new icon. Microsoft's coming out with laptops now. The laptop, there's a Windows key. Well, now there's an AI key. So the new laptops coming have an AI key you can click. So it's just getting more and more embedded. And for us as organizations and leaders to say, that's all coming and it's going to hit us, and we're not going to take the responsibility to train our employees on the proper use of AI is leading towards being irresponsible and dipping your toe into the ungrowth pool again, because just left to our own devices, I mean, most employees, I believe, are solid and they're good and they're trying to be productive and they're trying to do a great job at work. These tools are easy to get to. Many of them are free, and we're using them at a record pace to do the work that we've been doing. And there's just no training yet for how do we use these in a more ethical way. I think companies either don't know how to do it, or maybe they do, they're just turning a blind eye to it, and they just can't. Or I think there's going to be a lot more stories like this one.
Yeah, so it seems like as we try to land this plane, it seems like, again, through the lens of people, processes, and data, we've talked about practical things that we can do already when you're starting to talk about AI, when you're starting to look at will AI affect my business. So from a people standpoint, we want to look back and make sure that there's still oversight, there's still human interaction, and that when people understand that you have put in some training and adoption and organizational change management. I mean, this is a sea change, and a lot of companies don't put a lot of effort into their change management protocols. So this is something, obviously, that we would encourage folks to look at.
Yeah, because it's a huge impact on their. The thing is, some companies they're afraid of change. They don't want to put the time and effort into organizing something around OCM, structuring it in such a way that you're communicating effectively. That not only that everyone knows about the change, AI or whatever it be, but also why, and how does it impact my job? Because there are a lot of, again, organizations, we're still talking about people at the end of the day, and they get pretty nervous about, AI taking their job, or if I document what I do in a process kind of a way, then everyone sees the way I've done it. But I've always been the only guy that knows how to do this. So if I document it, now anybody can do it. what does that say about, and there's fear, and that goes to culture. So, I think there's a lot of work that we could do to help our people understand that we need that kind of feedback, that we can work together with AI, with the technology, to further our company and hit our goals, and what that means to them in a very positive way. But then it all gets back down to data, that you've got to have good, clean, reliable, organized data, or AI either won't work or it's going to give you some pretty terrible outputs.
Yeah, so that's our people side. From a process side, we talked about some of the things to implement now: governance, who can publish, who can write,
Yep.
where can we get information from that we're incorporating into our systems. That seems like low-hanging fruit to
Yep.
grab, that put those
Those are
policies
some
in
good,
place.
good first steps. I would say though that to really get to we have a strategic growth plan. We have a process, a little 2-hour call that we do with a good cross section of companies. What it does is it gets them really we're just facilitating and adding recommendations, but it's getting them to focus on what are their outcomes, what are the high-level requirements that they believe they need to hit to get those outcomes, and then we look at the tech stack, as we said. But at the end of it, it's helping them prioritize high impact to low impact, high urgency, low urgency items on a mirror board that we can then come back with a documented plan that said, here's our recommendations, here are all the things you need to do to get these things better, to not fall victim to things like this, and how do you fight ungrowth. And they can choose to take that and do what they will, or we can help them implement that over however long it takes to help them get started.
So it sounds like, as we wrap it up, is the great first place to start if you're looking to fight ungrowth with AI.
Yeah.
Be to what? What's the next step there?
I would schedule a strategic growth plan with me, but what if you want to get started, I would at least encourage folks to get an AI governance sheet of paper, something to at least let the company know these are our expectations around AI, and you can do that with your attorney. They can, don't ask ChatGPT. It'll create a pretty good one for you, but it may not be accurate. So just put some thoughts into it, and then just make sure that you're communicating that in a way that they all understand that we're all doing this for the benefit of the company and to hit our outcomes. But at least some level of AI governance would be good.
Mike, I appreciate it. Thanks, man.